Good evening and welcome to this regularly scheduled meeting of the City of Kettering Planning Commission for Monday, July 20th, 2026. I would like to take this opportunity to thank the Miami Valley Communications Council for televising and taping tonight's meeting for a rebroadcast on Spectrum Cable GATV Channel 6 and AT&T Uverse Channel 99 and streaming live over the internet at mvcc.video. It will also be recorded and available for later viewing on mvcc.video. Since this meeting is both audio and videotaped to form a complete record for possible appeal to City Council and or the courts, it is important that anyone who wishes to address the Commission to come to the lectern to speak into the microphone and give their name and address for the record. The Planning Commission is a volunteer independent body appointed by the City Council, whose mission is to hear all bodies involved and subsequently make a motion to approve, deny, continue, or recommend the application. All action by the Commission can be appealed to the City Council. Before we begin the meeting, I'd like to introduce the members of the Planning Commission. To my left, your right, is our newest commissioner, Mr. Steve Noss. Sorry, got that?
Got it.
And
thank you. For welcoming me.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
thank you and welcome aboard. I am Ray Waskey, the chairman. Next to me is Don Rethman, vice chairman, and sitting next to him is Troy Urbis, the assistant secretary. A member of our city staff present tonight is Tom Robillard, director of planning and development for the city of Kettering. Beginning with old business, the first item on tonight's agenda is approval of the minutes of the Commission's meeting of April 20th and May 18th, 2026. May I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes of April 20th and May 18th. Mr. Robillard?
Mr. Urbis?
Yes.
Mr. Waskey?
Yes.
Mr. Rethman?
Yes.
And Mr. Noss, I will have you as pass.
Abstain.
Abstain.
Yes, thank you.
And just to explain to the audience, the reason Mr. Noss is abstaining is because he was not on the commission at the time these meetings were held. Okay, moving on to new business. The single item on our agenda tonight is a request for approval of amendments to the Kettering zoning map to rezone multiple parcels throughout the city to meet strategic land use goals established in the Kettering Comprehensive Plan. So we'll begin with staff's presentation. Mr. Robillard.
Thank you, Mr. Waskey and members of the Planning Commission. I have to apologize a little bit. My presentation might come across as being fairly long and repetitive at points, but it is important that I cover certain things and make sure that it's all in the record. So in my presentation tonight, I'm going to cover basically two parts. The first part is who, what, why, and where. And then part two is when and how this is becomes all relevant. So part one, who is making this application? It's myself. Section 1153.12.3.4 of the Kettering Zoning Code specifies that the planning director may make a formal request for a zoning map amendment. And I also want to just state my qualifications for the record. I have been in the planning field for 38 years. I started off in Cupertino, California, St. Joseph, Missouri, and in Kettering for 27 and a half years now as Planning and Development Director. I'm also a member of the American Institute of Certified Planners. So what is being proposed and why? We're rezoning multiple parcels throughout the city. In fact, there is 437 parcels that's 837 parcels that we are proposing to have rezoned throughout the city to meet strategic land use goals established in the comprehensive plan. There's three basic main categories. Some are just one, some are two, and some are all three, meet all three of these. But basically, it's a rezone parcels to coincide with the comprehensive plan future land use map designation. In fact, all the parcels are for that purpose. Other ones are also to reestablish the base zoning for economic development overlay zones. And the third is to rezone parcels without an existing zoning category. Some special information that I want to preface here is in section 1153.04.2 and .3 of the Kettering zoning code specifies how we must notify people when we have applications, particularly for rezoning. In that particular section, it specifies that rezoning 10 or more parcels need to publish the notice in the newspaper of general circulation and the website only. So we did not specifically notify all 837 property owners or the 25-foot radius that we would normally do. As you can imagine, that would be in the 20 to 30,000 notifications. But our zoning code does allow for that, and that is consistent with the Ohio State Code. Paper copies of Exhibit A through G, and that is the zoning change map, the list of properties, the Kettering Comprehensive Plan, future land use map, the Kettering Comprehensive Plan itself, the Comprehensive Plan Conditions and Trends Report. I also have a copy of the zoning code. That is the whole codified ordinances, but the zoning code is in there. And the notice of public hearing. So if anybody is interested in more of that information, I have that available. Also available, I have on my computer, I have the GIS layers up for the proposed zoning districts. I have the future land use map, and I got the existing zoning map, if needed.
Tell him you want a copy of everything.
Yeah, I will.
The Comprehensive Plan Conditions and Trends Report, I just want to say that this was a report that was commissioned as part of the comprehensive plan. It took a deep dive into conditions and trends that are affecting Kettering and will be affecting Kettering in the future, and really was the basis for much of the analysis that steered us to the strategies and goals contained in the comprehensive plan. So it's an important background document that supports all the strategies contained in the comprehensive plan. The last thing I wanted for special information is that, thank you, Mr. Ruthman, for pointing out on the list of properties proposed to be rezoned on page 25. There was parcel number N64 03504-007, which is some railroad property off of Woodman Drive. There was a typo in it. The existing zoning is BP, which is Business Park, and it was labeled as just B for business. But it is BP, is proposed to be rezoned to business. And I left a copy of that fixed list on your dais there, and the new date on that exhibit is July 20th, 2026. I also revised the proposed motion to reflect that new date. So where are these properties located? I've got several pages of these. First, around South Dixie and Stroop. Most of these properties are being proposed to be rezoned to meet the current use that's on the site and what is reflected in the comprehensive plan. The corner of Dixie and Stroop, those brown properties are proposed to be neighborhood business. And a lot of these properties are proposed to be changed from business to neighborhood business. And as we go through this list, you'll see that there are small properties adjacent to residential neighborhoods that the whole idea is to protect those neighborhoods with uses that are not automotive intensive, such as gas stations or high-intensity drive-through uses that might have negative impacts on those neighborhoods. But they are business properties nonetheless, and have a whole list of business-oriented uses that can be located there. Next up, we have Stroop and Far Hills area. Around the Southmore Circle area is neighborhood business. And then the old Groby's farm there, which is called, that area down to the south, where Schroyer is, that is currently an economic development overlay that is being proposed to be rezoned from the economic development overlay to business and residential, and that reflects what is on the ground there now. Dorothy and Far Hills, the big part of this is that it's being rezoned to neighborhood business. Dorothy and South Dixie, the Governor's Place Shopping Center area there is being rezoned basically to what is reflected on the ground, so office and neighborhood business. To the south of Governor's Place, there's a large office area currently that is zoned business, but it is all office buildings. We think it would have a negative impact on that area and the surrounding neighborhood if that was ever developed as business properties. Going north, Shantz and South Dixie, that area at that corner there is being rezoned to neighborhood business. And then the other properties along South Dixie reflect what is currently there on the ground. North and east, we have Patterson and Woodman. And this primarily is neighborhood business along Patterson Road there, just because it is very close and integrated with the neighborhood. Off to the south there on 4 Boulevard and Smithville, that is an economic development overlay zone that is being proposed to be rezoned to residential and neighborhood business, reflecting what is on the ground. The other areas off of Scottsdale there, those properties were split zoned. So they had one parcel with 2 different zoning districts on it. And we had several of those throughout the city. So we're just trying to correct those to make those properties just a single zoning district, because it would be impossible to develop it in 2 different ways like that. We have Wilmington and Dorothy Lane. Again, the properties north of Dorothy Lane are neighborhood business-oriented uses, and then along Dorothy Lane to the south there, again, neighborhood-oriented businesses. At Woodman Drive and Dorothy Lane, this is where the Kroger Shopping Center is. That is all economic development overlay that is being proposed to be rezoned to business and office to reflect what is there on the ground. Wilmington Pike and Marshall, where Day Air Credit Union is, that is an economic development overlay proposed to be rezoned office, which is what that use is. On the north side of Marshall there, that's a split zone property that we're correcting. The same with the library and the apartments behind it. Both those were a split zone property that we're correcting. And then at the corner neighborhood business. To the east, this is a little bit interesting. Off of Wagner Road and Walden Way, there's quite a number of townhouses there. Those have never been zoned into the city. They were annexed years and years ago, but never given a zoning designation. The same with the property off of Swigert. Those two properties were never given a zoning designation. So the R2 being proposed reflects what is on the ground there. David and Hempstead Station, that is all currently zoned economic development overlay. So we are proposing to, the rezoning there reflects the uses on the ground. And then a little bit south, off of Bigger Road and Whip, again, those are reflecting what is on the ground there, neighborhood, business, and office. I'm going to pause there in case you have any questions about where these properties are located.
Does anyone on the commission have any questions for Mr. Robillard?
Yeah, I do have just a couple questions. As you reviewed all this, and I think the comprehensive plan was very well done, a lot of public input, so I appreciate that. When you look at these specific parcels, and you talk about, matching up what's there, then making the changes stuff, do you feel there's any negative impact on the value of maybe residences' homes that would be involved in here? Or do you feel that, in your professional opinion, that we're doing them good service here?
Yeah, great question. And yes, as you'll see later on in my presentation, I very wholeheartedly support the direction of the comprehensive plan and the rezonings of these properties. I think they will, all of them, all these corrections will have a positive effect, not only on the residential neighborhoods surrounding, particularly those neighborhood business areas, and the developments where there's office, yet it was zoned business, the unzoned properties, and the changing the economic development overlays will all help in the redevelopment and reinvestment efforts for those properties. So I think it's all positive.
Okay. And then my second part of that question is, with these changes, are there any updates or improvements they have to make necessitated by these changes?
No. Any use that's there is if it happens to be non-conforming, then it's grandfathered in, and
Okay,
as long as it's in use, they can remain there. Pretty much most of them, I would say probably 90% of them are perfectly fine. There's no changes. Their uses are
Okay, great.
what's reflected.
That's my questions. Thank you.
Do you have any other questions?
I just had one question about a parcel that stood out. I think the changes to make it a B business. So it's the old rail line that is just north of Patterson Road, really running along the west side of Woodman.
Yeah.
Is it correct to assume that being changed to B then matches the contiguous properties that line? Yeah, it's very noticeable as a red curve.
Yes.
So short of the neighborhood business that's just west of that on Patterson,
Yes.
running north where the Valley Thrift Store and, the National Trailer or National Storage, those, that just now, is that matching the contiguous zoning that it's bounding?
Yes, the answer is yes, because
Thank you.
no. Let me see if I can get this to work better. Well, I thought I could show the zoning map up there, but it is not doing that. But anyway, so yes, the properties to the east and west of that are zone business. That rail line there currently is zone business park. And so this really just makes that all tie in as business.
Yeah. There's limits to what could be done on that, but yeah, making
Yes,
it consistent
It just
with
ties
that.
it all together, yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah,
thank
and in
you.
fact, hopefully, ideally, that becomes part of the flight line, which is the bike pedestrian path that is proposed between Delco Park and downtown Dayton.
Right. Thank you.
Do you have any more questions?
No questions for me.
I had one. The parcels that had the split zoning,
Yes.
what was the rationale for that? Was it to give possibly developers more flexibility, or what was the idea behind it?
No, actually, those were left over from when the properties were first zoned back in the mid-'50s. They were different parcels, apparently. Some of them were that way, and then they got recombined over time. Number one. The other thing was that how they used to do zoning is they would say, okay, because a lot of it was farmland at the time too, they said, okay, 100-foot strip along either side of Wilmington Pike is going to be business, and then outside of that is residential. So as parcels were subdivided, the subdivision seemed to make sense, and they didn't follow the zoning line, which was kind of random anyways.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Okay, go ahead, Tom.
Okay. So next part is part two, when and how. So I wanted to cover a little bit about the process. Currently, this is the application, Planning Commission Case 26005. Tonight is the Planning Commission public hearing. The Planning Commission next, after the public hearing and consideration, will make a recommendation to City Council by passing a motion. That will then be presented to City Council at a public hearing, and then they have readings of that after the public hearing. After the second reading, they take a vote. If it's approved, the ordinance becomes effective 15 days after that. So now we get in the real exciting part. Section 1153.12.6.8.1 specifies standards that the Planning Commission must make to make a recommendation to City Council. Basically, it says, requires the Planning Commission to make certain findings in order to recommend approval to City Council for rezoning. This section states that a map amendment may be recommended for approval if at least one of the following documented findings can be made. There are 5, and my presentation will show that I believe you can make 4 of those 5 findings. So required finding 1, the proposed amendment is consistent with the City of Kettering's comprehensive plan and with the intent of the zoning code, or such consistency is being sought currently. So, yes, the comprehensive plan future land use map designates all parcels with the desired land use category. The future land use map is intended to be used over the next 10, 20 years to guide decisions on development, redevelopment, and reinvestment, along with the intent of preserving the stability and character of neighborhoods and business areas. The future land use map identifies key areas where reinvestment or new development types may be appropriate, balancing continuity with strategic opportunities for the city's future. The proposed rezonings all align with the future land use map. The second part of that is the comprehensive plan strategies. D2, H5, H15, and E3 all support this rezoning request. D2 states the the strategy is to rezone key development sites to be consistent with the comprehensive plan. That's the primary purpose of this. It states that we should reevaluate zoning on strategically located properties, particularly aging commercial sites, neighborhood business districts, and underperforming corridors to align the official zoning map with the future land use map. Rezoning should incorporate flexibility to support residential and commercial development in mixed-use settings. H5, the strategy states, rezone business zone properties where appropriate to less intense commercial districts where more walkable neighborhood business districts are desired. There are many existing neighborhood business districts throughout Kettering that can become better connected to surrounding neighborhoods in the coming years. By rezoning these areas to less intense auto-oriented zoning districts, the neighborhood business district, the continued development of these areas into neighborhood business districts will continue. H15 states, support the continued development and improvement of neighborhood business districts near established neighborhoods. Kettering has several neighborhood business districts that are walkable from surrounding neighborhoods. These districts should be improved through the opening of new businesses, the improvements of pedestrian connections, branding, and other enhancements. And then finally, E3, rezone economic development overlays to appropriate zoning districts. Economic development overlays make redevelopment projects in these districts very difficult. Rezoning these areas to appropriate base zoning districts would allow for simpler redevelopment processes. Displayed here is the comprehensive plan future land use map. Like I said, it is also available in our comprehensive plan, and it is available electronically if anybody would like. But it does identify all the properties in this proposed rezoning in their appropriate land use category. Required finding 2. There has been a change in demand for land that alters the information upon which the official zoning map is based as a result of a change in population, consumer preference, economic indicators, or other socioeconomic trends. A significant change in area or neighborhood conditions, building conditions, or traffic volumes, or a major change such as the construction of a major road, the installation of utility lines, or other similar factors that significantly alter the area. The staff analysis of this is that is there a change in demand for supporting an amendment to the official zoning map? The conditions and trend report that I showed earlier demonstrates that significant changes in market demand, demographics, and development patterns have altered the assumptions upon which portions of the official zoning map were originally established. As a mature, nearly built-out community, Kettering's future growth will occur primarily through redevelopment, adaptive reuse, and infill development rather than greenfield expansions. These changing conditions support reconsideration of existing zoning classifications to better align with current and anticipated land use demand. So then drilling down into those three different subcategories, has there been a change in population, consumer preference, economic indicators, or other socioeconomic trends? The Conditions and Trends report identifies several significant socioeconomic changes affecting land demand. Population has stabilized and resumed modest growth after decades of decline. Demand for housing has increased substantially, as evidenced by rising home values, extremely low housing vacancy rates, and continued residential investment. The city's population is becoming older and more diverse, creating demand for a broader range of housing types, neighborhood services, and mixed-use development. Consumer preference has shifted away from traditional retail shopping towards service-oriented, experiential healthcare, entertainment, and dining uses. The regional economy has shifted from manufacturing and large corporate office users towards healthcare, technology, and service industries, reducing demand for traditional office and large format retail spaces. Collectively, these demographic and economic trends have created increased demand for residential, mixed-use, and adaptive reuse development, while reducing long-term demand for certain traditional commercial land uses. Part two of that, has there been significant change in area or neighborhood conditions, building conditions, or traffic volumes? The report documents substantial changes in the condition and function of many commercial areas. More than one half the city's commercial, office, and industrial buildings are now over 50 years old, with many approaching functional and economic obsolescence. Several commercial corridors have experienced declining retail activity and changing tenant demand as shopping patterns have evolved. Vacant and underutilized commercial and office properties present opportunities for redevelopment rather than continued reliance on traditional strip commercial and development. Successful reinvestment in several shopping centers has demonstrated that redevelopment incorporating new land uses can restore economic vitality where traditional formats were no longer viable. These changing physical and market conditions indicate that portions of the existing commercial zoning no longer reflect current development patterns or market demand. And the third part, has there been major changes significantly altering the area? So although the report does not identify a single infrastructure project as a catalyst for change, it concludes that the broader market and development conditions have fundamentally altered land use demand throughout the community. Limited vacant land, aging commercial corridors, changes in employment centers, redevelopment of former office and industrial properties, and continued public investment in transportation, utilities, parks, and community facilities have collectively shifted development pressure towards redevelopment and mixed-use investment. These changes have significantly altered how commercial properties function within the community and have increased demand for more flexible land use patterns. So, finding, the Conditions and Trends report demonstrates that substantial changes in population characteristics, consumer behavior, economic conditions, building utilization, and redevelopment opportunities have altered the demand for land since the current zoning classifications were established. These changes provide factual basis for amending the zoning map to better accommodate contemporary market conditions, encourage reinvestment, facilitate adaptive reuse of underutilized commercial properties, and support the long-term economic stability of the community. Required finding 3. A study commissioned or conducted by city staff indicates that there has been an increase in demand for land in the requested zoning classifications, and as a result, the supply of land within the city of Kettering, mapped as such on the official zoning map, is inadequate to meet the demands of such development. So very similarly, The conditions and trends report specify or talks about the market conditions, demographic trends, and economic changes have significantly altered the demand for land uses throughout the community. Substantial increases in demand for residential development and mixed-use redevelopment opportunities, declining demand for certain traditional commercial land uses, limited amount of vacant land remains within the city, making redevelopment of existing commercial properties the primary opportunity to accommodate future growth. The current supply of land available for contemporary residential and redevelopment-oriented land uses is insufficient to fully accommodate projected market demand under the existing zoning map. So finding, the conditions and trend reports provide substantial evidence that there has been an increase in demand for land within the requested zoning classifications, and that the current inventory of similarly designated land within the city, as reflected on the official zoning map, is inadequate to meet the changing development patterns and market conditions identified in the study. Required finding 4. The proposed use cannot be accommodated by sites already zoned in the city due to lack of transportation or utilities or other similar development constraints, or the market to be served by the proposed use cannot be efficiently served by the geographic location of the existing zoning districts. Staff finds that this criteria, number 4, is not relied upon in support of this application because the proposed amendment is intended to implement the comprehensive plan rather than address the infrastructure limitations or geographic deficiencies. So we have concluded this criterion does not apply. Required finding 5. There's an error in the official zoning map as enacted. Staff has found several areas where there was errors, including the properties, the garden homes along Walden Way and the vacant properties along Swigert Road adjacent to I-675 that were never designated with any zoning district. So the finding is errors do exist in the official zoning map, including the residentially developed properties along Walden Way and the vacant properties located on either side of Swigert Road adjacent to I-675. There are several more criteria that the Planning Commission must consider. Section 1153.12.6.8.2 states that no rezoning of land from any residential zoning classification to any non-residential zoning classification unless one of the following criteria are met. Such proposed zoning is at least 1 acre in size or a complete block face, or such proposed rezoning site is contiguous to land in the proposed zoning district classification, or such proposed rezoning is consistent with the City of Kettering's comprehensive plan and with the intent of this zoning code. As you can guess, there are several properties that are more than 1 acre. There's several of these properties that are contiguous to similar zoning districts, but really we are relying on these proposed rezonings, and really as detailed earlier in my report, provides consistency of the official zoning map with the Kettering Comprehensive Plan, and therefore consistent with the city's comprehensive plan and the intent of the zoning code. Section 1153.12.6b states that the Planning Commission must consider each of the following 5 matters based on evidence presented in order to make a recommendation to City Council for a rezoning. So these aren't necessarily required. These are things that you need to consider. Issue 1, the extent to which the proposed amendment and proposed use are in compliance with and deviate from adopted plans, goals, and policies. As stated earlier, pretty much the entire purpose of this application is that it is compliant with the city's comprehensive plan. Issue 2, the suitability of properties in question for the uses permitted under the proposed zoning The properties to be rezoned were identified due to their current ill-suited zoning designation based on the comprehensive plan. The proposed zoning classifications are best suited to provide consistency with the comprehensive plan. Issue 3, the adequacy of public facilities such as transportation, utilities, and other required public services to serve the proposed uses. Although each of these properties was not examined individually for adequacy of public facilities and capacity of public facilities, these things were examined in the comprehensive plan and future land use map. So the proposed zoning map amendment implements the adopted land use recommendations and does not increase development intensity beyond what was anticipated. Issue 4, the effect of the rezoning on surrounding uses. That was a question that Mr. Urbis asked about earlier. The proposed rezonings from business to neighborhood business will minimize negative impacts caused by intense audit-oriented uses permitted in the business districts on surrounding uses, particularly established residential neighborhoods. The proposed rezoning of office properties from business to office classification is consistent with the existing uses and will eliminate the negative effects on surrounding uses if those properties were redeveloped with uses permitted in the B business classification. Rezoning economic development overlay properties to their appropriate and underlying zoning classification will encourage reinvestment and stability to surrounding uses. And finally, the rezoning of unzoned properties along Malden Way and Swigert will have minimal effect on surrounding uses as all those properties are already zoned R2, and this is consistent with that. Issue 5, the effect of the proposed zoning on economic viability of existing developed and vacant land within the city. The proposed rezonings will improve economic vitality of existing development and vacant land. Many of the comprehensive strategies are directly intended to accomplish this purpose. This rezoning helps meet those objectives. Lastly, Section 1153.12.6.b states that the Planning Commission shall not recommend the adoption of a proposed amendment unless it finds that the adoption of such an amendment is in the public interest and not solely for the interest of the applicant. The city, by its nature, represents the public interest, and particularly in this case, where we are implementing the comprehensive plan. Therefore, this amendment, we believe, is in the public interest. And since I am the applicant and I do not own property in Kettering, I have no direct impact. Questions? That concludes my report.
Any questions for Mr. Robillard?
No questions.
Any questions?
None?
And I have none.
You want to open up for a public hearing?
For public hearing.
Are we ready for the public hearing part?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. This is a public hearing, and since this is a formal public hearing, we welcome the comments of anyone in the audience who wish to speak to the commission on this matter. And if you care to address the commission, please come to the podium, give your name and address for the record. I see one person in the audience. But not about this subject?
Yeah, not about the specifics.
Okay, we will have a section at the end of the meeting for other topics. Okay? Okay, well, seeing none, can I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
I will make my recommendation first, and then you can, oh, yes, you close it.
We close the public hearing first.
Yep.
Right.
I so moved.
Second? Do we have a second? Okay, it's been moved and seconded to close the public hearing. Mr. Robillard, can you take the roll?
Mr. Urbis.
Yes.
Mr. Rethman.
Yes.
Mr. Noss.
Yes.
Mr. Woski.
Yes. Now, we would like staff recommendations.
Thank you. Staff finds that the proposed zoning map amendment satisfies the applicable review criteria of section 1153.
I'm sorry, Tom, we have some interference downstairs. There it goes.
Okay, I'll start again.
Looks like it will abate.
We need a big fly swatter down there. Bam.
Staff finds that the proposed zoning map amendment satisfies the applicable review criteria of sections 1153.12.6.a and 1153.12.6.b of the Kettering zoning code. We also find that it advances the goals and strategies of the Kettering comprehensive plan, corrects deficiencies in the official zoning map, improves consistency between adopted land use policy and zoning regulations, supports redevelopment and reinvestment, and promotes the public health, safety, and general welfare. Therefore, staff recommends the Planning Commission forward case PC-26-005 to the City Council with a recommendation of approval.
Thank you, Mr. Robillard. Before we have a motion, any comments from Commission?
No.
Okay, Mr. Rethman, I believe you have a motion.
I do, Mr. Chair. I have a motion for PC-26-005. It is to rezone multiple parcels throughout the city to meet strategic land use goals established in the Kettering Comprehensive Plan. Whereas an application has been received from Thomas Robillard, Planning and Development Director of the City of Kettering, 3600 Schroyer Road, Kettering, Ohio, 45429, requesting approval to rezone multiple parcels throughout the city to meet strategic land use goals established in the Kettering Comprehensive Plan. And whereas the Planning Commission has reviewed the facts surrounding this request, including an oral and written report by city staff, which is incorporated herein and held a public hearing on July 20, 2026, and whereas the Planning Commission adopts the finding of fact presented by staff in their report dated July 16, 2026, which is incorporated into this motion, and finds that the proposed zoning map amendment satisfies the applicable review criteria of sections 1153.12.6.a and 1153.12.6.b of the Kettering zoning code, advances the goals and strategies of the Kettering Comprehensive Plan, corrects deficiencies in the official zoning map, improves consistency between adopted land use policy and zoning regulations, supports redevelopment and reinvestment, and promotes the public health, safety, and general welfare. Whereas Exhibit B, list of parcels to be zoned contained in the staff report for case PC-26-005 dated July 20, 2026, lists all properties to be rezoned by this action from the corresponding existing zoning district classification to the new zoning district classification. I move that the applicant's request to rezone all parcels identified by parcel ID found in Exhibit B, list of parcels to be zoned, contained in the staff report for case PC-26-005, dated July 20, 2026, to the corresponding new zoning district classification, be recommended to City Council for approval. This concludes my motion.
Thank you, Mr. Rethman. Do I have a second?
If I could,
Oh, Mr. Robillard.
I recognized a slight error. The staff report that I sent out, although I sent it out on the 16th, it is actually dated July 20th. So in that third whereas, if you could change that from July 16th to July 20th.
20th.
Okay.
Got it. Thank you. So with that correction, do we have a second?
Second?
Mr. Robillard, would you call the roll?
Yes, sir. Mr. Noss,
Yes.
Mr. Rethman,
Yes.
Mr. Urbis,
Yes.
Mr. Woski.
Yes. The motion to approve the amendment of the Kettering zoning map has passed. Moving on to audience participation. So anyone in the audience wishing to speak to the commission on items not on the agenda, please come to the podium and give us your comments. Here's your chance.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name's Geraldine Hartman.
And
and
Your
I
address,
was-
please?
I'm sorry?
Your address?
My address was 1124 Hale Avenue, right behind the court building.
Dayton, Ohio.
It's 45419. It's Kettering, but it's the Oakwood extension.
Oh, this, okay,
Right.
right.
I have been going through a rather difficult separation within the court, and that has brought to light some issues with the court building itself in regards to regulation of access to restroom use. And I have tried to bring this to the attention of the clerk of courts, who has ignored me. And I have tried to schedule an appointment here with the mayor or somebody who would speak to me, and have not been called back. So I'm here tonight hoping somebody here, since it was indicated to me that it was the council that was deliberating on this as of December until now, how am I supposed to go about using the restroom when I'm at the court? I'm a transgender woman, and that came to light in my trial in November, and one of the court employees took it upon themselves to prevent me from using the women's restroom, which I had used just fine for months before that. So, yeah.
I can certainly get your phone number, and I will call you back, or I will have the assistant city manager get in touch with you to help coordinate a response.
Okay, because there is not currently any state law that says that I can't use the facilities corresponding to my gender. So, and my license does say F on it. This isn't a costume, so I don't appreciate the court treating it as such.
Yeah.
But yes, I can provide you my contact information.
Great.
And I would add to that, that in the future, if you have issues of any kind, please contact the city manager. He's the guy at the very top. I would start there.
Okay. I did try. I came in and asked for an appointment, and I did not get called back.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you for bringing it to our attention.
Seeing no one else in the audience, we'll move on to other business. Signing of plats.
There are no plats to be signed.
Thank you, Mr. Robillard. Communications and reports.
There are no communications and reports tonight.
Thank you. And finally, Planning Commission comments or reports.
Nope.
Oh, just like to welcome our newest member to the commission. So
Thank you.
welcome.
Glad to be here.
Yeah. I've been on it for a long time, so if you have any questions, feel free to reach out.
I appreciate that.
Yep.
Thank you.
Ditto. And I have no comments as well. So our next regularly scheduled meeting is for Monday, August 3rd, 2026 at 7 p.m. The meeting is adjourned and the time is 7:54